Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to ITHIHASA, a 100,000 year story of Bharath, India documentary, English subtitles. I didn't practice saying that, I just tried it now. So ITHIHASA, a 100,000 year story of Bharath. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. So this was a request, so I'm doing it. Requests has been coming in. I've been slow at it just because there's
The history of India, written during the colonial era, begins with the Indus Valley civilization. When the civilization declined, Aryans had invaded or migrated to India, who wrote the Vedas. In fact,
So real quick, we'll rewind that a little bit. This was a request. I'm not asking for a request right now, even though you can make suggestions for it. Just be mindful that you might have to ask it for multiple times, because I do try to get to it. I do try to at least put on my wish list, but it might be a little bit before I get to it. Let's continue on.
To India, who wrote the Vedas. In fact, we do not have any chronological history before 500 BCE. That's what modern historians and archaeologists record. But the advanced research based on archaeological, archaeoastronomical, and literary evidence suggests otherwise. India's history is continuous since the beginnings of Holocene, and we Indians proudly call our history as ITHIHASA.
Okay, I'm going to rewind just because I want to see the image. Sorry. It's going to be a lot of pauses because there's a lot of amazing stuff.
And we Indians proudly call...
Wow, when was this? That looks really, really cool. Okay. Sorry, there's probably going to be a lot of that, so if you want to watch this uncut, me interrupting it, please, links are going to be in the description. I'm probably going to be pausing a lot because I want to see a lot of the things they show on here. And also to listen again.
Our history as ITHIHASA. The word ITHIHASA splits as Iti, Ha, Asa, and means thus verily happened. Vedic, post-Vedic, Itihasa and Purana texts record history just in a form that is different than what is now considered to be the norm. Today, the definition of history is that which was introduced into India by the colonial historians who just doubted our antiquity without evidence. Much prior to that, the rishis recorded chronological and genealogical history so that future generations could benefit from its learnings. Let us scientifically explore our chronological antiquity. It may be difficult to say when humans settled down in the Indian peninsula, but the catastrophic eruption of Toba volcano of Sumatra, Indonesia, had wiped out the humanity, flora and fauna of India 75,000 years ago. Toba's erupted mass deposited an ash layer of about 15 centimeters thick over the whole of India. Archaeological site of Jwalapuram in Kurnool district has evidence of human habitation before and after the event of Toba eruption. Possibly only a few people living in the hills of Kashmir and Hindu Kush range might have survived. Gradually, northwestern and North India became habitable. Thus, Sapta Sindhu region and Saraswati river became the cradle of Vedic civilization. The archaeological findings of early agriculture on the banks of Lahuradeva Lake in eastern UP have been carbon dated from 13,000 BCE to 7,300 BCE. This sunken ancient city of Gulf of Cambay was indeed the city of Dwaravati, which was built by Vishwakarma around 11,100 BCE, and it was submerged by the sea around 9,400 to 9,300 BCE at the end of Meltwater Pulse 1b around 10,200 to 9,400 BCE. A piece of carbonized wooden sample of this Dwaravati city has been dated around 7,500 BCE. a submerged structure of the ancient Pumpuhar city in Tamil Nadu, has been dated around 9500 BCE. The archaeological site of Bharath in Hisar has also been dated 7570 BCE. Mehergarh farming sites near Bolan Pass, Pakistan are dated 7000 BCE. The famous Rakhi Garhi site of Haryana is dated 6500 BCE.
Hold on, let me rewind that real quick.
6500 BCE.
It'd be pretty interesting to see. That's BCE. If I remember my is it history correctly, that's about 8,522 years from today. If again, I'm not much of a historian, but I just could only imagine what I suppose maybe say 6,500 years from now, what would they find? And curious as to, like, it's very interesting to go looking back to this stuff. And I guess some of the things that I watch a bit of history. It's mostly Egyptian history, where they're starting to talk about how Egyptians were using batteries. That was kind of fascinating and interesting. It wasn't very efficient, but just really, really cool things, especially to see, I guess, kind of the technologies they had in the past. And culture and everything else, obviously.
Based on the archaeo-astronomical evidence, Brahma can be dated in 14,500 BCE because he introduced a 5-year Yuga calendar when summer solstice used to occur in Dhanishta Nakshatra around 14,500 BCE. After 1,000 years, Vishwamitra observed the summer solstice at Shravana Nakshatra around 13,500 BCE as mentioned in the Mahabharata. This phenomena is called precession of equinoxes. The gradual shift in the orientation of Earth's axis of rotation in a cycle of approximately 26,000 years. Earth's precession is called the precession of the equinoxes because the equinoxes moved westward along the ecliptic relative to the fixed stars opposite to the yearly motion of the sun along the ecliptic. Thus, the equinox or solstice shifts one nakshatra 13.2 degrees westward in 960 years. Numerous references found in post-Vedic literature indicate the shifting of winter solstice from Mrigashira to Rohini. The Vedic legend of Prajapati Daksha and his 27 daughters clearly indicates the Mrigashiradi list of 28 nakshatras, which also coincides with the beginning of Vaivaswata Manvantara around 11,200 BCE. The winter solstice was at Mrigashira Nakshatra around 11,200 to 10,200 BCE, and the same was at Rohini Nakshatra around 10,200 to 9,200 BCE. The winter solstice was at Kritika Nakshatra around 9,200 to 8,200 BCE, and the list of nakshatras had been reset starting from Kritika Nakshatra. Most of the Brahmanas and Aranyakas were finally compiled when the winter solstice was at Kritika Nakshatra.
I'm going to pause that real quick to look at that. I am definitely not familiar with any of this.
The list of nakshatras was again reset starting from Ashwini Nakshatra when the winter solstice had shifted to Ashwini Nakshatra around 7,200 BCE.
Oh, okay. I see now. Okay. Huh. A little bit. I understand now that, as he was explaining it in the summer solstice, then also equinox, winter solstice, autumn. Summer, fall, winter, spring, okay. So I'm not understanding the things around the circle though. I'm not sure what that means. And it doesn't repeat.
Taittiriya Brahmana indicates that Devas and Asuras were in a major conflict when Abhijit Vega was a pole star around 12,000 to 11,300 BCE, and it refers to the star Kashyapa, that is Gamma Draconis, of the Sisumara constellation, which was its celestial pole starting from 11,000 BCE. It was still a pole star around 8,800 to 8,700 BCE. Tamil Sangam literature informs us that Rishi Agastya convened the first Sangam around 11,250 BCE. Star Canopus became visible around 11,000 to 10,000 BCE to the people living in Kanyakumari, who named the star after Agastya. Kashmir Valley was a glacial lake known as Satisar during the Rigvedic period. This glacial lake was formed during the period of meltwater pulse 1A, around 12,700 to 11,500 BCE. The closed Varahamula Baramula Pass was holding the melted waters of glaciers. Nilamata Purana relates that Kashmir Valley was a big lake and it became habitable in Vaivasvata Manvantara. Around 11,200 BCE, incessant rainy weather following a massive earthquake caused by an asteroid hit on Earth might have opened up Baramula Pass, and the water of Satisar had flown out of Kashmir Valley, which had caused the Great Flood in Madra, Sindh and Gujarat areas. This devastating flood occurred during the reign of Vaivasvata Manu. Vedic Saraswati river had originated at a Plaksha Prasravana near Badrinath and flowed up to Pritudaka or Pehova in Haryana. Thereafter, Vedic Saraswati took a southwestern course from the Kurukshetra region and flowed from Hisar, Sambhar Lake, Pushkar and Jodhpur to Great Run of Kutch. Due to the massive earthquake in 11,200 BCE, Saraswati changed course and started flowing westwards from Kurukshetra, Sirsa to Kalibanga and Anupgarh. Sutlej, Yamuna and Drishadvati were the main tributaries of Saraswati. Sutlej changed course around 14,500 to 13,000 BCE. IIT Kanpur has dated the Paleo channel of Sutlej River in 13,000 BCE based on the OSL method. Yamuna and Drishadvati continued to be the tributaries of Saraswati. Yamuna had two channels in the Vedic period. One Yamuna channel flowed westwards and merged with Saraswati, whereas another channel flowed eastwards and merged with Ganga river at Prayaga. Seemingly, why one paleo channel of Yamuna, a tributary of Saraswati, had changed the course around 11,200 BCE. It appears that the Avabrata ritual of Saraswati Shatra in Yamuna might have been introduced to commemorate the past confluence of Saraswati and Yamuna. According to oceanographic studies, sea level suddenly rose 28 meters in 500 years, about 10,000 to 9,500 years ago. This accelerated sea level of 10,000 to 9,500 BCE has been named Meltwater Pulse 1B. Most probably Dwaravati city in Gulf of Cambay was flooded by the sea around 9,400 to 9,300 BCE at the end of Meltwater Pulse 1B. Seemingly, it took at least 1,500 years to completely submerge the area of Dwaravati city. Thus, the piece of wood found in the area of the sunken city in the Gulf of Khambat was submerged around 8,000 to 7,500 BCE.
So real quick about the floodings. I know, remember, the Christian Bible talking about like God flooded the earth for so long. And then I do believe scientists and Mayans, I think, had a flood. I think there was probably a global flood that occurred. I'm wondering if this all happened around the same time, or is it just regional, or what? I mean, whenever you start looking at like, I guess, different civilizations, start noticing floods, it makes you like, okay, maybe there's something to a lot of the, I guess, the religious texts for the most part. But it's just very interesting, and I do wonder if, like, what happened. Like, it says here 150 years for it to submerge, completely submerge a, I believe it's a city or a town. Like, what happened? Like, why did the waters all of a sudden rise? I guess it was the glacier melting. And then, where did all that water go, I guess? But now I'm curious as to this documentary of the flooding, whether it matches up with the flooding of the rest of the world, too. I can't remember.
Mayasura wrote Surya Siddhanta at the end of the Krita Yuga when Sun, Moon and all 5 planets were in great conjunction in Aries on the date of Chaitra Shukla Pratipada. Computer simulations conclusively established the date of Surya Siddhanta on 22nd February 6778 BCE, Sunday, which would be the sheet anchor of our Yuga chronology. A Yuga had only 5 years in the Vedic era, but the duration of a Yuga and Chatur Yuga were increased from 5 to 1200 years and from 20 to 4800 years in 6777 BC. Later, the duration of a Chatur Yuga was again increased to 12,000 years, considering the differential duration of 4 Yugas. Ancient Indian astronomers further extended the duration of a Chatur Yuga from 12,000 years to 43,20,000 years, 12,000 times 360, to achieve accurate calendrical calculations. The updaters of Puranas had erroneously deemed the increased calendrical duration of Chaturyugas as a given fact and narrated the chronological history of ancient India. In fact, the duration of a Yuga was only 5 years before 6777 BCE, and the epoch of the early Vedic Yuga calendar might have commenced around 15,962 BCE. In fact, the Jovian cycle of 12 years, the 60-year cycle, the Yuga of 1,200 years, the Saptarshi cycle of 2,700 years were introduced in 6,777 BCE. Thus, we can fix the period of Treta Yuga around 6,777 to 5,577 BCE and the period of Dwapara Yuga around 5,577 to 3,177 BCE. It is traditionally recorded that Rama was born in the last century of Treta Yuga. Thus, Sri Rama was born on 3rd February 5674 BCE in Punarvasu Nakshatra when Saturn was on exaltation. In Ramayana, Lakshmana describes the position of a comet and a planet in Mula Nakshatra when the Vanara army was ready to march towards Lanka. This astronomical observation is verifiable. Venus was in Mula constellation around 22nd August to 3rd September 5635 BCE, and the Halley's comet had also entered Mula Nakshatra on 23rd August 5635 BCE. The apparent magnitude of 1P Halley was 2.14 on 23rd August 5635 BCE. It was visible to the naked eye after sunset between 23rd August and 23rd September 5635 BCE, and it gradually faded away. According to the studies of post-glacial sea level rise, Sri Lanka had been connected with India.
I'm going to pause that and go back to that real quick. Let's see. Let me see if I can
Studies of post
go. Okay, that graph is very confusing. Last glacial maximum. Post-glacial sea level rise. So I'm guessing as the numbers go up, that's when certain, that's the sea level, I'm guessing. And then I'm not sure why there's so many blue markers, and I'm trying to associate it with the things on the far right on the screen. Australia. I'm seeing all that. So what does that mean though? Australia. Rio de Janeiro and all that, and I can see most of it being in the upper right hand quadrant, meaning are those getting flooded at that point? Vietnam, Sunday Shelf. See, I'm seeing a lot of the same markers of the Vietnam Shelf right around the oh jeez, right around this edge right here, I suppose you can see right there. But again, I'm wondering if this is the this is that point where I guess places were getting flooded, and I'm wondering if there's an origin point that all of a sudden water spread from one area outwards, east and west, or just west potentially. Jamaica, Rio de Janeiro, Australia.
Glacial sea level rise, Sri Lanka had been connected with India through land route at least up to 6200 BCE. The last pulse, meltwater pulse 1c, took place around 6200 to 5600 BCE, which produced a rise of 6.5 meters in less than 140 years. Evidently, the area of Ramasetu was submerged by sea during MWP 1c. Nala might have raised the ground level maximum up to 2 meters to construct Ramasetu. The sea level of some places between Dhanushkodi and Talaimannar must be at least 14 meters below the current level. Thus, the Ramayana era can be dated around 5677 to 5577 BCE. The Aihole inscription conclusively establishes the date of Mahabharata war in the year 3162 BCE. In fact, the complex problems in Indian chronology arise from a misunderstanding of the epochs of ancient Indian eras. The Kurtakoti copper plate dated Saka 530 refers to a total solar eclipse that occurred on 9th May 53 BCE in Karnataka, which conclusively establishes that the Saka era commenced in 583 BCE, whereas the Sakanta era commenced in 78 CE. Historians mistakenly mixed up these two epochs, which led to a chronological error of 660 years. Out of two contemporary copper plates found at Pranaveshwara temple, Talagunda, one plate is dated in the Saka era, whereas another is dated in the Sakanta era. Apart from this era of 660 years, later Jain historians inadvertently identified Ujjain king Chandragupta, a disciple of Bhadrabahu, with the Maurya king Chandragupta, which made Mahavira a contemporary of Buddha. In reality, Buddha attained Nirvana 675 years before the year of Mahavira Nirvana. Puranas and the Burmese inscriptions clearly indicate that Buddha attained Nirvana in 1864 BCE. Recent excavations at Lumbini and the radiocarbon samples collected from the trench C5 at the center of the Buddhist shrine at Lumbini indicate an earliest date of 1681 BCE. Thus, there is a chronological error of 1380 years in dating of Buddha Nirvana due to mixing up of two different epochs of Saka and Sakanta eras, and the mistaken identification of Chandragupta, the disciple of Bhadrabahu. The dating of Buddha Nirvana in 1864 BCE also validates the traditional date of Adi Shankaracharya in the 6th century BCE. This entire research work of Vedveer Arya has been presented in two books: The Chronology of India from Manu to Mahabharata, and The Chronology of India from Mahabharata to Medieval Era.
Oh, I'm gonna rewind that.
Manu to Mahabharata, and The Chronology of India from Mahabharata to Medieval Era. Since the change in date of Buddha Nirvana affects the entire world chronology, the sheet anchors of Western chronology have been discussed in the third book titled The Origin of the Christian Era, Fact or Fiction. In fact, the European Christian scholars blindly assumed the epoch of 1 AD as the birth of Jesus Christ without presenting any independently verifiable evidence. Therefore, this book argues that the epoch of the Christian era does not deserve to be the sheet anchor of world chronology. there is genuine need to fix the Western chronology up to Augustus without referring to the epoch of the Christian era. The Venus tablet found in Babylon offers independently verifiable astronomical evidence, but unfortunately, the world historians miserably failed to fix the exact date of the Venus tablet. The present research work formally claims that the riddle of dating Venus tablet has been successfully solved. That remained unresolved since the last 150 years. Thus, the research work presented in 3 books provides a complete solution, not only for the chronological problems of India, but also that of world history.
I'm laughing at that just because, you know, I mean, good lord, it's so difficult to find a way to date some things back, I'm sure. I mean, I'm not a historian, definitely. I'm not an archaeologist either, and I'm sure they're freaking wrecking their minds over this stuff. I just hope they do the best that they can, obviously, with what they got. I do wonder if we'll ever get to a time frame of where technology can be so advanced where we can accurately date stuff. I'm just amazed of how accurate they were able to date things back in the day, especially with astronomy. And I mean, merely just looking at the stars, and again, they can tell time, date, and location with just the stars. It's really amazing of how amazing people were back in the day. Now we have modern technology and modern people can't even navigate the streets. You know, it is just remarkable, and I don't know. I certainly hope we try to learn as much as possible and seek the truth for sure.
In reality, the internal archaeo-astronomical data of ancient Indian literature and marine archaeological site of Dwaravati in the Gulf of Cambay conclusively indicates that India has a continuous chronological history since the last 16,500 years, starting from the time of Rishi Brahma and his son Swayambhuva Manu. Ancient Indian historical tradition painstakingly preserved the genealogical chronology, but the increased yuga durations in the Indian calendar led to the loss of true chronology. This research scientifically re-establishes the chronology of India, considering the epoch of Mayasura's Surya Siddhanta and Krita Yuganta in 6778 BCE as a sheet anchor. Amazingly, our motherland is not only the most ancient, continuous civilization that had its origin in 14,500 BCE, but also a cradle of human civilization.
Pausing right there, perfect time, while it's in the middle of the sentence, to look at this architect. Now, was that covered and they dug around it? Or is that dug into what looks like a mountain, into a rock side? Because if that was covered and they dug that out, wow. Out of that rock, so you can see, oh, in the corner, sorry, around this rocks right here. And they dug in and then around it. That'd be quite the labor, and how good it looks too.
Let us reclaim our glorious past, because a nation that gets delinked from history cannot create history.
Well, I will say this. Definitely, anyone who wishes to be an archaeologist and an historian, I certainly hope you become successful in it, just because I mean, it's just fascinating to learn about the past in general, to see what people were like, the culture was like, how far back we can trace humanity in general, and I don't know, I guess to see where maybe the origins of humans came from. As far the last that I remember is I think Africa, I believe, somewhere around Egypt, probably the cradle of life, I suppose. But then again, I'm not sure. It's been a little bit, and I've not really researched too much into it. I remember just happened to glance at it once, I suppose. But again, it is fascinating to learn about our history. Am I that interested in our history? Not so much, but if it's presented to me, I'd definitely probably watch it. Just because it's just fascinating and interesting. Again, I guess it's a little bit more interesting to learn about people's cultures, how cultures develop throughout the entirety of the world. But anyways, that's my reaction to Hasa, sorry. Now, mind you, it's probably too small. But again, link in the description. ITHIHASA, sorry, excuse me. 100,000 year story of Bharath, India, documentary with English subtitles. If you want to watch this uninterrupted and many more from this person's channel, please, there's a link in the description to go to this direct video and please watch it and anything else he has to offer. If you like my content, please consider subscribing, thumbs up, thumbs down below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next vid.